shall we talk a little bit about Amplified Heart and around that time? Because there's something that slightly chimes with Fuse, meaning that Amplified Heart came out of a time when you were very ill. It was a kind of unexpected change, we can say, something that happened that wasn't expected, and then that altered the kind of course of your career as much as anything. And Fuse, as you've just said, slightly came out of the fact that you were both operating on kind of separate tracks. Then COVID happened, and that changed it again. Yeah. So there's a kind of reflection.
Yeah, the unexpected catastrophic event.
Yes. Always useful, right, in life?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think when I think about it, I think about our first album being quite similar to that too, because going to university as a teenager is a huge, almost catastrophic event.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I mean, in that you're taken away from home for the first time, you're going to a new city, everything's new, you know, you're forced to sort of confront your feelings very much.
It's just taking you out of what was, isn't it? So you're going along a kind of way, and
exactly.
I mean, look, in therapy parlance, you say it's taking you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And often, good work comes when you are suddenly thrust out of your comfort zone.
Although catastrophic events can be a bit, you know.
They can be, but I suppose I look at us and I think, well, what's our response been to catastrophic events? We kind of go, well, I suppose we better make a record. I don't think we know what else to do. I don't think we know how else to respond. Our mode of responding is to think, how can we... I don't know what it is, whether it's about articulating something, for us, both of us, I suspect music is a way of getting those emotions out. So in some ways it's articulating it and writing lyrics which express, but also there's a wordless expression going on. There's a kind of, this is stuff we can't even speak about, this is difficult. So music is the perfect outlet for that. You know, you can just... In some way, I don't know, it's a brilliant release valve, isn't it, for stuff that is very hard to articulate.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because those points in your career are successful points, aren't they? They're because, I mean, you know, I hesitate to invite catastrophic events on anybody.
I think it's wishing another disaster on us.
Have another disaster, see if you get an album out of it. But there is a feeling of that does bring something out, doesn't it? It brings something out in people.
I mean, I do think we're sometimes at our worst when we are in our comfort zone. You know, when we've been more critical of work we've made in the past, sometimes we've looked back and said, you know, there were a couple of moments when perhaps we did get a little bit settled into a groove that was too easy. And, I mean, I don't know, you know, life just does step in and kick you out of those grooves anyway, doesn't it?
But you're also naturally artists that seem to be like that. I mean, meaning that you're not constantly making the same sound, the same album. I mean, you know, that doesn't seem to interest you.
No. I mean, maybe we're just not very good at it either. I think, again, you look back sometimes at things you've done and it's very easy to post-rationalise why you did things you did. Yeah. But sometimes I think, you know, artists especially are often operating very instinctively, and you often just make the record you are capable of making at that time. And some of the moves we've made have been quite, you know, counterintuitive in some ways. They have gone against the grain of what might have, I don't know, made us more successful or been easier for people then to critically fit us in certain places. We've sometimes made life difficult.
I think also it's perhaps the true definition of inspiration that you work out of a completely unencumbered. Your feelings are just bubbling up from your subconscious without you thinking about them. That is to be truly inspired.
Yeah.
When you're asked, oh, what were your inspirations on this record? People expect you to list 5 bands that were kind of very instrumental in the sound of the record. But I don't think that's where inspiration comes from. Inspiration comes from the events that make you act. Yeah. And I think we were propelled into this record by the events of lockdown, what happened, our decision to come together at the end of it. And then we just started, beavering away and working and trying not to think too much about it, and just writing and doing fragments of songs and sharing them with each other, and really not knowing what direction we were going in, but feeling quite energized by it all. And it was a good feeling. It felt like real creativity.
Yeah, it's in the doing, isn't it? Otherwise it doesn't happen.
In the doing. I believe that so strongly.
Yeah.
It's very easy to always try and, when you're asked to explain a work that you've made, you almost kind of try and go back and put all your thinking in front of it. We thought these thoughts and then decided to do this, and that's really not how it works. You do the things, and sometimes you look at them in surprise and go, why did we do that? Don't know. Just seemed like a good idea. Don't know. We looked at each other and we went, do you think that's a good idea? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And then afterwards you rationalise and go, oh, well, I can see all this was going on, but...
And that's not to say there aren't themes that recur on this new record, because there obviously are.
Yeah.
But I think they only struck us when journalists started asking us questions about the album.
Yeah.
And we had to sort of look down on it. And they would say, well, this one sounds like that one, and you're covering that subject, which you also cover in that song.
Yeah.
And we started to realise, yes, it came out of our subconscious, but there was clearly a pattern going on.
Those themes, I presume, but cover things like going out, what that means, and a nostalgia for going out as well, perhaps?
I think there's very much a kind of interior-exterior world going on the record. Some of the songs are very intense, kind of psychological self-examinations, songs like When You Mess Up, Interior Space. There are other songs which, yes, are very much about the outside world, communality.
Yeah.
That thing we all missed during lockdown so much and dreamed of and wished we could have back. I think that's what inspired me to write a song like No One Knows We're Dancing. I just found myself thinking about those days when I used to DJ in the late 90s, early 2000s. I started a club with Jay Hannon called Lazy Dog in West London. It took a while to get going, but once it did, it became this incredible communal space that was packed from about 4:30 in the afternoon every Sunday. And we would all be down there in this shared world. Only held 200 people, but with the sun still blazing outside, we'd be all downstairs in this world of, house music and this real coming together. And I just wanted to capture the characters that I remembered, and I just did this kind of thumbnail sketch of the kind of people who used to populate the party.
And the Fiat Cinquecento.
Yeah.
He showed me that lyric, and we were kind of working over the backing track, and the lyrics were just written, every line just was written once, and I got to that line, Fiat Cinquecento, and I just thought, I like that so much, I'm just going to make that the chorus. I've sung it once, and I'm going to sing it 3 more times.
Yeah, you are painting a picture of a particular time, but then also, extending it to make it something. It starts from the personal, it goes universal, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I when he showed me that lyric, I thought, to me immediately, I was like, oh my God, this is a beautiful evocation of Lazy Dog. But it also felt like an amazing, sort of eulogy to the whole notion of clubbing, which, as Ben says, we hadn't been allowed to do for 2 years. And, this idea of almost these ghostly figures moving about on a dance floor in a club that, it doesn't exist anymore. But when Ben was writing it, no clubs existed anymore. And so, I don't know, it had a lot of sort of poignancy to it at the same time as being, in some ways a sort of homage to something completely hedonistic. But it also seems really moving because it was about something temporarily lost.
Yeah, and also something that, that specific club has gone, like it should do. Like all clubs,
it's fleeting.
Should exist,
yes,
and
those
like
moments are fleeting. Every night like that, it's not captured forever in some format. It's a very fleeting event, and it comes and it goes. And
and that's a good
kind of
thing.
magical.